I just want to say thank you to everyone who has invested their time into Midweek Mashup. Today we are going to dig deep as guided by our very talented pastor. Welcome to Midweek Mashup. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm here with Pastor Ty, who spoke on the parable of the 10 talents, aka the 10 bags of gold, aka a whole lot of money.
Whole lot of money.
This last Sunday.
Well, the really funny thing is that there's actually in the Gospel of Luke, it's called Minas or Minas, M-I-N-A-S.
Oh, okay.
And so it's like there was a third example of other measurement of money.
Interesting. Okay.
And like it's like as I was kind of prepping for like the questions of this, I was like, man, what do I talk about? What do I say? But man, the parables are hard to teach on. Number one, because there's so many layers of things that you have to get through.
Right.
It's like a 7-layer dip of content of like, all right, you're in an ancient Middle Eastern context, and in that context, Jesus is telling a story about a hypothetical situation that isn't actually happening. So you have to get to a point where you can be comfortable enough in that context to understand the hypothetical, to understand, oh, this is actually about the kingdom of heaven. Okay, so what does the hypothetical say about the kingdom of heaven to the Middle Eastern people, and how do we translate that to us today?
What was kind of the general overview of the parable of the 10 talents?
Sure.
And what was kind of the takeaway?
Yeah, the general overview was kind of breaking down that metaphor, because talents versus bags of gold, the NIV for most of my life translated it as 10 talents, and then has in recent years shifted over to 10 bags of gold, which is really just translation help for you and I don't use talent as a measure of money.
Right.
So instead of calling it a talent, we're just going to call it a bag of gold, because that's really the thing you need to know is that when the master in this parable hands over these bags of gold, it's not a small thing. Like, it is a large opportunity. Even for the servant who only gets 1 bag of gold versus the servant who gets 5, like 1 bag of gold is still a pretty sizable chunk of cash. And so breaking down, okay, when the master in this parable hands over money, that's not in the translation to kingdom of heaven language. That's not God saying, here's all these monetary things and here are these material things. I wanted to make the connection to here are these opportunities. Because the master, like in the Gospel of Luke, in Luke's perspective, the master gives one final piece of instruction before he leaves, is put this money to work. Go do something with it. Don't just sit on it. Like, go do something with it. And so for us today, instead of seeing those as monetary value alone, like I think to some extent it does represent monetary value, or in my sermon I even said when I was younger and would read the parable of talents, I thought it literally meant your talent, like the thing that you're good at. But it's not just that. It's not just your abilities. It's not just money, but it's the opportunities that you've been given. And I think when you look at Luke's perspective of the parable and he says, put this money to work, like that's really the thing that the master is giving in this story. He's giving his workers, his servants, an opportunity.
Oh, that's so good.
And the 3 servants are given 3 different types of opportunity, right? Like you can do more with 5 bags of gold than you can do with 1. But I think that's where it's really interesting when the master returns and the first 2 servants do well. Like, they're both celebrated the same. Yeah. Like, they still get the well done, faithful servant. Like, there's not like a party thrown from the guy who goes from 5 to 10 versus the guy who only went from 2 to 4. Right. They're celebrated the same amount. And I think that's where, as the church today, we need to be looking of like, what are the opportunities that we've been given? Some of those opportunities are talents that we've been given. If you have a talent or a gift that you want to use to bless the people of the church or the people of your community, like that's an opportunity, absolutely. If you have the ability to teach children and want to help out at something like Elevate or at the summer camp, like that's an opportunity. Money is another one where it's like if you have the financial ability to bless someone, whether it be through benevolence that we do regularly here at FCC, or if you want to, I gave some shout outs to like if you want to scholarship someone's trip to camp for students, or if you want to provide funds for stuff that we're doing with Compassion Network, with the diaper drive or the backpack drive or Joyful Bounty or Hearty Harvest. When those come around, like that's an opportunity that we have here at FCC, and then there are other opportunities in our community as well.
Yeah.
And then even outside of the kind of official opportunities, there's opportunities that we run into every day. When I'm in I really do my best to represent Jesus well. That's kind of like in the background of my mind when I'm interacting with people on a daily basis of like when I'm in the grocery store and I'm standing behind someone who's taking a really long time, like whether I'm wearing a church shirt or not, like I want to represent Jesus well in that situation. And that's a really silly example, but you can scale up from there. Like, I do not like waiting in lines very much, as I don't think most people do. But like in the DMV, when it's taking a really long time and the person behind the counter is really annoying and like they're just getting on every nerve that you have, like how do you represent Jesus well in that situation? You have patience, you have kindness, you have hope, you have like there's a way to represent well in that situation, and those opportunities I don't want us to miss those either. Because even just being kind and being open and living that out in everyday situations, like that can start a conversation. Like that can be something that sparks an interest in someone in your life that you see regularly. Like if you're constantly like kind of going against the grain in some situations, like I use the example of like school and work, because those are like two big ones for most people, that like a large part of our life gets consumed by those of like if you've got stressful deadlines of projects or work things or meetings or finals. Like, what does it look like to represent Jesus well in that situation? And how do we view that as an opportunity that we've been given? Not just a thing that, like, oh, I'm a Christian, so I guess I've got to make sure that I don't, like, lose my cool on every situation. Like, no, that's an opportunity that we've been given. That's an opportunity to say, you know what, even in the midst of this stressful situation, I have peace. I have peace that transcends understanding. And, like, people will notice that. And then how do you take the next opportunity when someone goes, why aren't you mad? How do you take that opportunity to say, well, ... and go from there?
What would your advice be to someone who might consider themselves a one-talent person? Who's like, I didn't go to college, I don't make a ton of money, I don't really have any skills, I don't feel like I have anything to offer. What's your advice to someone who might feel like the person who's been given one talent or one bag of gold and is like, I don't know what to do with this?
There's an interesting experience I have from college of one of my professors made everyone in the class tell their testimony in 5 minutes or less. And it was like my freshman year, and that was really stressful for me. But I appreciated the focus that he had on everyone has been given a story. If you're a follower of Jesus, you've been given a testimony of how God has changed your life in one way or another. And so if you are, number one, if you're considering yourself kind of like low on the totem pole of talents or bags of gold, I would really consider praying about that and really looking at the experiences that you've had in your life and maybe looking at some of the things that you might have dismissed. As like, oh man, this isn't something that anyone would want to hear, or this isn't anything that someone would want to understand or know or learn, because there might be someone who can learn from that experience that God has given you. Another way that, like, if you're kind of like, man, I don't know where to start, or I don't know where to like jump in or what to do. If you're looking around here at FCC, I would talk to one of the people that kind of lead a ministry, whether it be Eugenia and Alan Kai, who lead Elevate, or Becca, who is running our student ministry, our Next Gen and college ministry. Like, jump in on something that's already happening. Because I think that's where the opportunities, it's not like you have to go out and, like, start your own thing and, like, create a program from the ground up, or, like, change everything that you're doing. Like, there's already stuff going on. The example I gave on Sunday was me and my brothers play video games twice a week with people, and we stream it on Twitch. And, like, I'm not good at video games, but I can play them and I can chat with people as we play. And, like, that's really the opportunity. And so what are the things that are already happening in your life that you just have to kind of change your perspective on it a little bit of saying, you know what, I live in this neighborhood. There are people around me that I've never gotten a chance to know. There are people that I've never gotten a chance to meet. Like I met my neighbors this past October because I had an extra bag of candy after Halloween, and I knew the woman next door to me had kids, and I didn't want to eat all those Reese's by myself. And so I just knocked on the door and said, hey, this is an unopened bag of Reese's. Do you want this? And she's like, yeah, absolutely. And like, it hasn't, like nothing incredible has happened from that, but like now when we see each other on our way into the like when we see each other like parking our cars, like it's like, hey, how you doing? Like there's at least some sort of kind of familiarity there. And so even stuff like that, if there's people in your office that you walk by every single day, just learn names. Say hello. Hey, how was your weekend? What'd you do this, like what are you interested, like just getting to know people even on that level of, it doesn't have to be anything extraordinary. I kind of stealing from some of our discipleship pathway language. When we talk about extraordinary prayer and fasting, we're not talking about like this monumental, I prayed for 12 hours straight, I didn't eat for 3 days. Like, no, it's extraordinary. It's taking the ordinary thing you're doing and just another step up. So what are the things, the ordinary things that you're around and doing in your life that you can just take another extra step up? If you're struggling to figure out like, man, I feel like I don't have somewhere to invest or take an opportunity, I would challenge you to really consider, man, what are the things that are just happening that I could just take that extra step in?
Well, thank you so much for sitting down with us. If you want to hear more from Pastor Ty on the parable of the 10 amounts of money, then I will go ahead and add a banner to that sermon. But thank you so much for joining us, and we will catch you next week for the next midweek mashup.
Woo!